Hey, Del Jackson, we got a special, a special press break today. Press break brought to you by Spooky Nook, and we thank them. That's the only way that we can put these shows on. So today's Super Bowl show, we got Coach Mike Gaffey from Bishop McDevitt. We got Mike Gross from LMP. We got Andy from LL Hoops, and we got Coach Scott Gaffey, son of Mike Gaffey from Ephrata. So we'll go right down the line and say hi to everybody and see how things are going. All right, Coach Gaffey, Mike, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great. Looking forward to the Brady versus Mahomes today.
Nice. Mike Gross, good?
Well, again, I'm looking forward to Brady versus Mahomes too, but I think it's going to be pretty feeble compared to what the audience is about to enjoy here.
I seriously doubt if Mahomes or Brady will be laughing much on the field until after the game.
They might a little bit. They seem loose.
Okay. Yeah. And Andy, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I'll get this shit back on track here. I'll talk hoops for a little bit.
Okay.
Four games this week for me. Saw Central York, one of the better names out of the York Adams League. Friday night saw probably the best head-to-head matchup we have in our confines with Lebanon. And then obviously three of us on this call were at McCaskey yesterday to see Reading, one of the best teams out of Berks. So hopefully parlaying all of that into some mid-10 talk today. So all kind of coming full circle, I guess.
Nice. Coach Scott Gaffey. I'll tell you, Coach, I sat home Friday night. I told Andy I was going to sit home, watch the games on the live stream. I think I was doing Township, and I'm watching, and we're doing the chat, which is pretty cool. The YouTube chat, we're back and forth. And all of a sudden I got this. I said, hey, I'm watching two games at once. It's, Del, you got to get over to the CV Ephrata game. I'm like, oh man, I get over there and it's game's over. I'm like, oh man. So you guys had a rough one on Friday night.
Yeah. Everything it's going really well, but I think our younger guys, we play a lot of younger guys, and we're still learning how to close out some of the close games. We've been in a lot of close games at home and just really haven't been able to get over the hump. But our one senior we have, Park Hawes, does a great job leading everybody, and I've been extremely happy at Ephrata.
Well, I know
you guys are getting better though. You guys are getting better, aren't they, Scott? It seems like
Oh yeah, we're getting better every game.
Yeah.
I think we're getting more competitive. We hadn't made it to 50 points this entire season until the last two games. We made it to 50, and we've been telling our guys, that's somewhere we need to score in order to have a chance to compete and win games. And we did do that the past two games and gave ourselves a good chance.
Nice. Hey, I'm gonna, for our audience today, it's just gonna be a free for all. We got kind of a sketch, so when somebody hops in and they got something to say, then we'll do that. So the guy that talks the most will be on the TV the most. That's kind of the way it's going to work out tonight. So let's start with Coach Mike Gaffey. Coach, I was going to do a resume thing on you, but then they say that you're only supposed to have one page of resume, and I couldn't do it more than that. So briefly, the people here on this screen know kind of your background, but briefly, give us a little bit of your background, head coaching.
Well, I started at Susquehanna in 1991. 1 year sub.
I didn't even know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It was a 1 year sub position for the teaching. So back in 91, there were no teaching openings after the season. So I keep my coaching, but I have to stay as a substitute. And then I was engaged to my beautiful wife, Stephanie. So she looked at me and I looked at her, and she had this little thing that went across her forehead that said, happy wife, happy life. So then I realized I better get a full-time job. So Palmyra opened up, and they had a second grade teaching opening to go with it. And they were building from the bottom up. So I went to Palmyra. I was there for 10 years and absolutely loved it. And from the Steel job, I was there for 10 years. Jackson, you would know this better than me, but once you stay somewhere longer than 7 years, sometimes your weapon runs out. I knew not many people would apply for Steel High as they just won back-to-back state championships. So the talent pool to pick from would be low because no one was dumb enough to go do that. So I was dumb enough to. So I went and I got let go after just one year. So then I went down to Alvernia to coach the JVs with Coach McCluskey, who passed away a couple years ago. I probably wouldn't have got back into coaching right away if it wouldn't have been for him. He brought me back in and made me do it again. It sort of picked me up off the carpet a little bit. And for the rest of my life, I'll always be indebted to him for doing that. And then Anvil Cleona opened up. So I went to Anvil Cleona, was in the Lancaster Lebanon League for 5 years and absolutely loved it. Got a chance to coach against Coach Jackson at Donegal, and his teams were running and jumping us, and we didn't know what to do against them. And it was always nice after the game, though. We'd get a beer sandwich or something. So, and then Anvil Cleona, the Penn State Harrisburg job opened up. And the athletic director there was Rashawn Carlton, who played for my father. It seemed like something different. You know, after a while, you want to try something different. So I went there, a whole bunch of players in Lancaster Lebanon League, and had all sorts of really good success with really good players from many schools in the Lancaster Lebanon League. And I was fortunate enough to be a varsity assistant after Penn State Harrisburg with my son's team at Harrisburg Christian for his senior year. And then the Bishop McDevitt job, when I thought I was going to be out of coaching again, just opened up in October when he went to St. Bonaventure. And I knew that Bishop McDevitt was hiring old guys because they had just hired Coach Bresty to do the girls. So I figured I'd go there, and that's where I am today. I'm at Bishop McDevitt.
Nice.
You know, Mike, one of the most, I just thought of this, one of the most memorable games that I ever did on the radio when I was doing color on the radio was that triple overtime. I think it was triple overtime district final with Susquehanna Township when you were at Palmyra.
Yeah.
That was an amazing game. And hadn't you lost to them 3 times?
We had lost 3 times during the season to them. The game at home was close. The game up there, we got annihilated. And then that was back when they broke the league into 2 halves. So in the second half of the league, Susquehanna got upset by CD East, which meant we both had 1 loss, and they didn't do any type of like tiebreaker or anything. If 2 teams had 1 loss, you played a tiebreaker for the second half before we did the overall. So we had a tiebreaker game with them, and we set ourselves back when Mike Wachowski and Chris Patel were playing.
Yeah.
And, Mike Wachowski's an assistant at Rider University. No, he's not at Rider anymore. He's at Central Connecticut State.
Okay.
Marshall.
Okay.
And Chris Patel had coached at Middletown for a number of years. Now he's the middle school.
Yeah.
We told the guys in that game, we'll go ahead and run up and down with them. Since that's what everybody wants to do. Nobody wants to stay controlled. So I said, go show your stuff tonight, guys. And they played good, but we lost. So then we decided in the district championship game that we could slow the pace a little bit. And they were both very good with that. It was just a weird.
That was a fun one to watch.
Fun, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, well, for me, anyway.
Sure, at Palmyra, they hadn't won a district championship in 39 years at that point. Now it's a little more than that now, but that sort of added to the fun too, was, that really wasn't supposed to happen. And we knew we had a chance, but we really didn't know we were going to win the game that night.
Yeah, right. That was great.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
And then you were there too. So with you and Scott Bradley,
That's right. I can't believe you remember that. Yeah, Scott.
Oh my gosh. Scott Bradley, when he did the games, yes, for the Lebanon County basketball, every game that he did on the radio was like the Super Bowl.
Yeah. He was.
And every possession was like the Super Bowl.
Yeah. He was like Gus Johnson now. The guy
he
on
was,
Fox. He was
he was better than Gus Johnson.
Wow.
Oh,
So yeah, that was fun.
all right, let's bring in Coach Mike again. Just give us a little bit about what's going on in the mid-pen. I mean, are you guys getting your games in? Is there top teams in your league? How are you guys doing?
Well, the one thing that I know, my son can help me with this because he coached in the top tier conference last year. So he knows like CD, Cumberland Valley, Harrisburg. I know Scott knows those teams like the back of his hand. So he can definitely help with, who Warwick, some of these teams are going to be seeing in the districts. Our team right now, we're 4-4, not even in the top 10 for districts. But when you look at the district rankings, Susquehanna Township actually had to forfeit 2 games. One was against us because they played someone that was ineligible. So they turned themselves into the PIAA stuff. Yeah, it's unfortunate because it was sort of it didn't have any bearing on the game or anything. So that's going to move us into the standings. But they're the top team in our league, but they're not going to win the league now because they're going to take 2 league losses by forfeit. So Middletown will win it. So in 4A, Middletown, as I look at the list, is probably the best team on there. And then the other team that's really good, that's not even in the top 10, is Berks Catholic, because they had to move up and that here in Reading now.
Yeah.
So Trinity also has a pretty good team this year. They moved up to 4A and they beat us at home by 15 and have a bunch of guys that played last year. And, they don't have to throw the ball to Chance Westry and go stand in the corner now. They can actually play and do some stuff. And their guys are pretty good. Mm-hmm. So our league that we're in, we have Steel High. Camp Hill is a very good team. I know their record's 4-6. I think. Does Lancaster Lebanon League? Who's AA in Lancaster Lebanon League?
Andy.
Boy.
I think AC is. No, they're no, because they played Trinity last year. So we have any, because Country Day is single A. I don't know if we have any.
Okay, so you guys really don't need much information on Camp Hill. I know, and my son can help me with this, Scott. With 5A, you have Northern is very good.
They must be good.
Lower Dauphin was in our league last year. They're well, all their guys back.
Yeah.
So really good. And they can play at whatever pace you want to play at. Good. They had some COVID issues. So that's the other thing too, is as you guys do your analysis, some of these teams have played games, and I know my son could tell you this too, without the better players sometimes. So it's hard to get a read on these records, how they match up with ratings.
Yeah, let's throw it over to Scott. Okay, Scott, that seems some technical stuff going on there. So we'll throw it over to you and feed off of what he had to say.
Yeah, well, I think the Commonwealth is always loaded over there in the mid-pen. I think Central Dauphin is really, really good this year. They return almost everybody.
Yeah.
And they got the freshman guard in. That's definitely a game changer. So they're definitely the favorites in 6A in the Commonwealth. I would think they beat Harrisburg pretty good last night. I didn't see any of the game, but they beat them by like 20 plus. And then Cumberland Valley is really well coached, and they have the 2 6-8 guys back from last year, Drury and Sherry, Sherry's going somewhere to play Division I basketball somewhere. So that'll be a good matchup in 6A when those teams play against each other. And a good matchup too. Like I'd be curious to see how Warwick stacks up against those teams. Obviously, Warwick seen them and Lebanon, because Lebanon just beat them. The top 2 teams in our section, I think, would be really competitive games. Like last year, Cumberland Valley struggled against Central Dauphin a little bit because their guards struggled. Now some of their guards are a year older, and they had some solid guards on JV. So I'd be curious to see. And then I think, Cumberland Valley, I'd be curious to see how they matched up against Warwick with their bigs against Sapala, who's a little more mobile and can get to the basket and can do some stuff, to see how they guarded him. But those are definitely the top 2 teams in 6A in the mid-pen, I would think.
Well, let me ask you this, Scott, because we don't get this too much. So you had experience in the mid-pen. Now you've had a little bit of experience in the LL. Is there difference in style of play, or is it just basketball and that's kind of the way it is?
I think there's a little bit of difference in the style of play. I think it seems like more teams in the Lancaster Lebanon League are run more half-court offense a little bit. Not that the pace of the game is slower, but we've played in some more grinded out type of games, at least in our league, with like E-Town and Warwick the first time around, and Lebanon. And I think in the mid-pen, it seemed like, I don't know, some of those teams play a little more up tempo, I guess you could say, but I think for the most part, it's pretty comparable. It's just basketball. The coaching is really good in the mid-pen. The coaching is really good in the LL. But a lot of it has been comparable. I think the LL, you see more of a lot more dribble drive. Like we didn't play anybody in the mid-pen that was doing the 4 around 1 dribble drive stuff, and that's definitely real popular in the LL.
Yeah. Hey, Andy, who can we thank for that dribble drive stuff?
How about the Falcons, and how about all of the Lebanon County schools? Like, you know how in football they call it the West Coast offense. I guess we have to call that the Lebanon County offense.
Yeah, that's so good. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, hey, Mike and Mike, I'm gonna turn over to you guys so you guys can ask each other any questions, or if you got some stories.
Well, I'm so interested in how COVID is affecting everything. And maybe I'm overanalyzing this, but let me throw at you what I feel like I've seen as we've progressed through this season. Early on, I saw a lot of bad shooting. And I was talking to Eric Epler of the Patriot when I saw you against Lancaster Catholic, and he said,
Still going on.
But a lot of guys miss it. In fact, I saw a game where a team won by 15 points and they missed 18 free throws, which that's hard to do. But it seems like we've maybe gotten through that a little bit now. Now what I'm seeing is trouble executing half-court offense, which I think is also understandable because you're more game time and less practice time. The ratio between so that teams are having to run to get points. I saw 3 games this week where I thought that was emphatically the case, where nobody was getting anything out of the half court, but if they could turn the other team over and get down and so does that make any sense, or am I overanalyzing?
That makes really good sense. I'm just thinking, like, from our team, as soon as you started saying that, we turn the ball over a lot in transition, especially when we don't have our star player, Kenyon Elliott, playing for us, because he's the one guy that has the varsity experience.
Yeah.
Our half-court execution is so poor due to the COVID that I decided, you know what, we're still going to run, and I'll just try to swallow my whistle when we turn the ball over, because at least that's an opportunity for us to score. So, and then, like you said, with the execution, different schools, and Scott could chime in on this too. Like we at McDevitt, we couldn't play in a summer league or a fall league.
Yeah.
And our open gyms couldn't start till October. And then even in our open gyms, we had to stay at separate baskets and couldn't actually compete against each other until the end of October. And so, yes, what ends up happening too is, and they say it on TV with the college games, and it's true, when you have the older guys, you don't have to worry about your execution that much because they're already used to it.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming when you go to see these games, you could probably pick out the teams that have the veteran guys.
Yeah, makes sense.
They're doing that. So you're right. The execution is definitely something that, and it's frustrating. So we actually did something yesterday that I learned from the coach at St. Bonaventure. When myself and Scott went up for his visit, Bonaventure was playing Canisius that night, Saturday night, and up there it's a rivalry game.
It's the Golden Griffins.
Yeah, the Golden Griffins. So we started making fun of them. We're like, you guys have a rivalry game with the Golden Griffins. So we're giggling, and meanwhile, when they're looking at us, we're okay, guys. Yeah. So, we go to the walkthrough. The walkthrough's at 10:30. Okay. Now, again, Coach Jackson, Scott, Andy, Mike, when you guys hear walkthrough, you think, well, you might go over the team's plays a little bit, maybe take a couple foul shots. Not here. They had a full-fledged practice, hour and 40 minutes, and they have a game at 7:00 that night. So I walked out of the gym with Scott.
Crazy.
What did we just witness there? And we didn't question it because Coach Schmidt up there has done an amazing job. Nobody should be winning basketball games up there.
Yeah, right.
The players that come there have that ability to play there and execute the way he wants them to. Scott, how many set plays do they have up there for their team?
Oh my God. Yeah, he has like 40 plus that he calls.
They have like
out.
40 plays. I can't even remember 4 of ours. So we watched a full-fledged practice. So Mike, what we did yesterday was I told the guys, we had a game at York Catholic at 6 with the JVs. We had a practice at 3:15 yesterday. For these guys are young.
That's interesting. Yeah.
They got a chance to sit around from March till October. They must have fresh legs. So we had and just went over all the plays. And got that from St. Bonaventure. Geez, if he thinks guys can have an hour and 40-minute practice and go play a game, I guess that must be doable to other places. So it's
Yeah,
interesting
that's great. Yeah.
because yes, it has had an effect.
It's interesting how certain coaches are, rather than have an offensive system, they just have a whole bunch of plays. Like Izzo, I think, is that way.
Yes.
Warren Goodling, our buddy Warren Goodling was that way.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know that Warren did that because I mean I followed
to an
him
extent. Yeah.
and knew of their success, but yeah,
But that's rare. That's kind of rare, though, right?
it is because, like Scott said, most teams, especially up here in the mid pen, are just running and things like that. You know,
What do you do, Mike? You kind of go, well, we're going to be 3 out this time, or we're going to be 4 out. Isn't that what you kind of do?
we try knowing today's generation of teenagers does not want to run a continuous motion offense all the time. So you got to mix it up. They don't want the, player A runs here, then player B runs here, and it's just over and over again. So Andy, how old are you, Andy?
31.
Yeah, see, Andy's a spring chicken like myself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, he
the
is.
three of us, Coach Jackson, Mike, we grew up in that era.
Yeah.
Where the 6'5" guy, hey, you go to this block and this block, you go. And you might screen once in a while, but now so we run like a motion, and then we have set plays at certain times of the games, or if you have the right, you can do that. And now what we've been doing sometimes is, let's say you have like an 8-point lead in the fourth quarter with, 4 minutes left, and you need to just use some clock. You don't even have to tell your guys. You can just call out a set play, and then they don't even know it. But by the time they set play, even if you don't score, you've run some clock. So that strikes me as a trick that Dell would have used numerous times.
Scott, how similar are you to Dad from an X and O standpoint, from your approach to it?
Pretty similar in a lot of those ways. Like we do 5 out, and we do have a lot of sets that we're trying to get. Now this year, it's been harder with being new and trying to put all of that stuff in. But we were a little more fortunate effort than he was at McDevitt, that we were able to get fall open gyms, and we were able to play in a fall league at the Nooks. Yeah, so we did have guys doing that, and then a lot of our guys. We really didn't have a lot of guys playing football. So we had a good group of core guys that were able to come in the fall so that we could get stuff in. But we're similar in just trying to do that now. We kept one of the continuities that Ephrata had last year with the cutter offense that Fisher was running here, and then Treese was running last year, just for the sake of something they knew how to do. And I figured, we could use that. But we're trying to get better too with our execution at the end of the game. Like when we won our first game against Twin Valley, we came down and made like 2 passes and shot on like 5 possessions when we had the lead. And I was like, geez, like, what are we doing? And I remember like, these guys have never played with the lead. We haven't had that experience. Sure. So we need to learn. Yeah, we had to learn, try to get better with that and learn how to get better possessions and do stuff like that. And that's where I think the continuity offense helps a little bit at the end, because then you can pass it around some more and kill some clock or call out sets. But a lot of the sets, we learned from him or from being up at Bonaventure in terms of the sets and the screen and roll sets and stuff like that.
I fear I'm pushing this in too much of an X and O direction for the audience. I'm doing what I'm interested in,
Well, I think it was good to talk about that though, because there's certain teams that do the dribble drive is very effective.
Yeah.
The teams that run continuities, the teams that run sets. I think it just depends on the team, the coach, and the players. And there's many ways to skin a cat, and all of those ways can be successful if you drill it and teach it the right way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hey, Coach Mike Gaffey, I want to ask you this, because I'm always curious from a historical standpoint. You have coached many different situations. You've coached for a long, long time, which, it's incredible to me. My heart goes out to guys that can hang in and just have that enthusiasm for the game. But my question is, and I know the rules have changed. I mean, you and I used to have to sit in the bench at one point in time, but that doesn't happen.
I don't know how you did that.
Yeah, him especially. Yeah. Wow.
Mike, he was a crazy man when he was coaching, but a good crazy man. Like his enthusiasm was off the charts.
Yeah, I remember him. I remember him a little bit as a coach. Yeah.
And man, his enthusiasm was off.
Yeah.
Well,
And then you would hear the score updates. You'd be at another gym in districts, and his team would be playing Reading High, underdogs, and you'd hear, score Reading 60, Penn Manor 57 with 3 minutes left. Like, Coach Dell's doing it again.
Well, you're talking about that was a 1 versus 16 seed matchup there. And
Yeah.
he almost pulled it off. He almost pulled it off.
There were other times too, but that one, I remember that one.
Yeah.
well, let me ask you this. I got some stories to tell too about sitting on the bench, but if we have time, we'll get into that, and we'll tell some stories about what Mike Gaffey did when I was coaching against him at Anvil. So that's another story. But to finish my question, how have things changed as far as, let's do 2 things there, Coach Mike. One is how things change as far as the game in general in high school. That's number 1. And number 2 is dealing with athletes today as opposed to 20 years ago.
What was the first one again? How's the game changed?
Yeah, how's the game changed?
Well, we sort of talked about that a little bit. Like growing up, like I can remember when I was a second grader going to my dad's games. You came down and,
Look at this.
hey, Mall Cop, Kevin James. You didn't tell me you were going to have a celebrity on here today.
I did. I told you I had a surprise for you.
Cameo appearance.
What's
Listen.
going on, Coach G?
He has all the good stories. He can tell you some goods. Before I answer your question, let me tell you the one time we have a no touching rule since 1998 when we beat Hershey. He screamed in my ear right after the game. And I was like George Bailey, like my ears started ringing. And I was happy that we beat Hershey. I said, from now on, don't do that ever again.
Yeah, that did start
Not
the
much
no
anymore.
touching
Ever
rule.
since he screamed in my ear.
That's no joke. There was a no touching rule, and it does stem back to being down 20 against Hershey and winning that game and me bear hugging you and screaming in your ear.
There was no need for that, Del.
Yeah, you got to draw the line.
So the game was played with the continuity offenses. And then the dribble drive that Andy was talking about, who really introduced that to the whole area was Coach McAllister at Lebanon Valley.
Okay.
They were running that.
Okay.
And so when I was at Penn State Harrisburg, that was difficult to defend.
Mm-hmm.
So the second or third time we played him, when Coach Sherwood was there with me, Coach Sherwood came up with the idea, hey, why don't you face guard the point guard? That way they can't get into it. So basically they had to run their dribble drive, but they had to run it without their best ball handler.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only time that I've ever seen anybody like try to stop it. We played Cedar Crest last year at Manheim Central. We couldn't stop their dribble drive.
Yeah, I saw that game. I was at that.
Yeah, because like when you hand the ball off, when you're doing like loops or something like that, the dribble drive is different because it's a deeper like penetrate and pitch, and so it's harder for your guys to switch. And we just had fits with that. And with only one day, you have to have a couple days to get ready for that. If you have to stroll down after playing on a Friday night,
Yeah.
preparation, that makes it even harder.
The Falcons were pretty good that day.
They were awesome.
You guys almost caught them at the end there. You kind of made it a scramble, but
Listen,
most of the way they were really good.
I'll tell you guys a behind the scenes story that you don't get on LL Hoops, but it game. Our team, first of all, there was no fire and brimstone pregame speech because it was like in the afternoon. We had just played Friday night. So, okay, guys, go again. So about the court, I had to go to the bathroom. So behind Central, there's a silver garage door partition. You separate the 2 locker rooms. Am I right, Coach Sherwood?
That's right.
All right, so I'm in the, let's just say I was washing my hands at the sink. Coach Smith was going through this pregame speech where you thought that maybe his team was going to knock over that garage door and come in.
Oh, wow.
So then I was like, okay, we're in trouble because these guys. So that's when I knew we were in trouble. They were ready to bring the fight and really played like it too. So
Yeah, they were good.
I already knew when I walked out of the locker room, we were already going to lose, Coach.
Coach Chris Sherwood, welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome. I mean,
Hey,
some
but-
people, you hopped in and some people are like, who the hell's this guy?
I'm happy to be here. As soon as you let me know Coach G was here and to make this surprise visit, I'm in.
Okay, so you're here to give us some scoop on Coach Mike. So give us a good story or three, maybe two, maybe one. You already got no hugging in, so that one's out.
Right, the no touching rule. That's a good one. I'll give you two. Okay, I'll give you a little behind the scenes look at Coach Gaffey here. Okay, so the guy has, and I was talking to Scott today about it, 300 plus high school wins, probably close to 400 if you're going to add in the Penn State Harrisburg wins. Okay, as a coach coaching against him, you see him. He's fun in games. He always has to use your bathroom. He always he's always making you laugh. Okay. And then you play him and he's the most competitive guy on the floor and no one knows it at first. So what happens? You're talking about your families, you're making cracks, you're talking about last night's bad beat. Okay. And boom, before you know it, it's 14-6. He's throwing his jacket one time and you're shell shocked because you're seeing something you haven't prepared for. As a coach coaching against him, the first time I went up against him, I had ridden his coattails for so long. The first time, I know we're no good. He knows they're much better than us at Anvil. He kicks our butt. We hug. Everything's great. We're on our way. Next year rolls around. We're a little bit better. They're not. And I'm like, we could get them this year. Sure enough, pregame, me and Coach G hugging. Everyone's having a good time. 2 minutes in the game, he's yelling for me to get back in the box. He's going out to question a call. And I'm like, Coach, it's me, your buddy from, and it doesn't matter, game's on. We now learn. Coach Gaff's kicking your butt. So he is a competitive man through all that. And it's not phony baloney. He cares about your family. He cares about those bad beats from before. But he's trying to win as well. So that's
my favorite part was we're talking about last night's bad beats. That's what I like.
So that's Coach G in a nutshell right there. My brother would always tell me, listen, we played him a couple times after that in districts and he always beat our butts. And my brother would always say to me, don't get caught up looking at Coach Gaffey. So my brother's favorite coach in the league is Coach Gaffey. In the league in District 3 is Coach Gaffey because he wants to watch him because he believes that it's 14-4 before the game even starts. You're caught up. He's in your and he's throwing his jacket one time and all of a sudden, and now he's coaching on top of that. You're in a lot of trouble.
Wow.
Some of that was true.
So I want to tell one more. This is a nice
Go.
This is a nice mentor Coach Gaff story. Okay, so we are at Mechanicsburg. I'm the JV coach at Palmyra. I couldn't coach my way out of a wet paper bag, and we need this game bad. Okay, and it's early in the game, and we get off to a pretty good start. And there's a fast break, and a Mechanicsburg guy pounds the backboard trying to block a shot. All rims out, no call, nothing. Now, I'm adamant that I believe that I heard an officials meeting 2 months earlier that any contact with the backboard on a follow-through results in a technical foul. Okay? So it's like 1999. So the official comes running back, and I'm like, that's a technical foul. It's a varsity game that we need bad. Coach Gaff's the varsity coach. I'm just his assistant. And I say to the official, listen, that's a technical foul. He smashed the backboard, knocked the ball right out. He said something. I said, hey, I was at the meeting. Apparently you weren't at the meeting. Technical foul.
Good. Way to go.
Okay. And I'm like, oh no, I'm dead. Okay. Coach Gaff is dead quiet. And I'm like, I'm dead. Like, he's going to kill me. Says a word. He basically says, in not so many words, get over it. Okay. I don't think I can speak the rest of the game. We sneak out of there with a win. And I am incredibly thankful. And he kind of just let me learn from my error there. I did my best to make sure I never towed that line again in a varsity game as an assistant. But that was a big one. That was a big learning experience for me, and he handled it. I remember to this day, he couldn't have handled it any better with me than that. I got to tell one more. Okay.
Yeah, go.
We are at Penn State Harrisburg. The roles are kind of reversed.
First of all, you would love to hear it. I want to hear what he says here because I have one for you, Dell. You're going to like it.
The roles are kind of reversed here. He does something and gets scolded, and bad things kind of start to snowball, and he sits down. It's far ball. It's an out of bounds underneath play. He's not budging, not talking. I'm calling the out of bounds play. A few possessions go back and forth, and finally I turn and look to him like, "Are you going to coach? Like the game's going on. Like, have you just quit? Like, are you pouting for the rest of the game? Like, what are you doing?" He kind of laughed and then just hopped right to it.
Right, so, Dell, you have to hear some of these. Okay. First of all, before I go any further, these two guys, my son Scott and Coach Sherwood, I'm very proud of both of them. They both are, and I'm going to say this about Coach Sherwood in case he ever gets back into coaching. They're fantastic coaches, and I hate to say this for selfish reasons, but if effort does not make districts, and we do, I don't have to do any work because my son Scott will prepare the game plan for us. It was so bad the one year getting ready for Berks Catholic, we were doing our walkthrough, and I couldn't remember the one play where the guy goes over here, then he goes over here, and Snip has all those plays that end up in a layup, and finally had to stop. And I was like, "Scott, Coach Gaffey, show the guys." And our guys look at him like they know he's my son. Some of them probably don't even know he coaches other places. And he just went through everything. So for me, life is easy in the districts and the states because I have my son to prepare them for me. Our game plans are actually better than what they are, and so are the scout reports during the season. But this Coach Sherwood guy, he actually helped me once because I did pout. When I was in Anvil in our first year, we weren't winning any games. And we've all of us here on the screen, we know what that feels like. And we were playing Big Spring that had the player that was going to St. Francis, but the rest of their players were marginal. So we thought we could beat them at home. So did we still not have a win at that point yet, Coach Sherwood?
I don't think we did.
I don't think yeah. So you're 0-12, you're 0-14, and the game is a close game. So we're on the foul line, and somehow our scoreboard operator and our scoreboard keeper, when the score was 52-52, and we made a foul shot, they didn't put the point on the board. So, and that's back when you were allowed to stand up. Now we had Denny Kinlock, so I figured, okay, justice is going to be served here. I just have to get Denny over here. So I brought him over and I said, "Denny," and I looked at their coach, Joel, who's fantastic. He's at Boiling Springs now. His son's a great player for them in 4A. And I was like, "Joel, please tell him that we scored a basket there. Like that counts as 1 point. Anvil should have 53. Big Spring should have 52 with 3.5 minutes left, 4 minutes left." And Denny said, "Coach, we have to go to the book." So he went to our book operator, went to their book. He said, "No, we don't have any record of them scoring a point." So I was like Charlie Brown after he lost the spelling bee. Go to the bench. I was like, "Coach," I looked at Coach Shore. I was like, "I don't know what else we can do." So we just lost a point. We have no wins. And now on our home floor, we can't even wait for a foul
That's
shot.
right.
So I sat down the bench and I did like Coach Sherwood describes. I've done it before. I put my head down and I couldn't go any longer. I didn't even know if I could coach another minute. So finally, after about 30 seconds, he looks at me. He's like, "Coach, this game is tight. You have to get back up there and coach this team right now. We have a chance to win this game." I'm like, "I can't." Point away from me. He's like, "Coach, get up." So finally, we did end up winning the game. But Coach, I needed a little pep talk there, and he did that. And
There
then
you go.
at Penn State Harrisburg, he was fantastic because I had never coached college before. So my first year of coaching college, I would look down at the other end, and these well-dressed younger coaches would be yelling at the refs, talking to the refs constantly for 40 minutes. geez, I have to do that for 40 minutes now? Like, you have to yell at the guy every time down. That's not even any fun. Like, you want to coach your team a little bit. Coach Jackson was very good because he had a nice mix of coaching his team and working the officials. And so all of a sudden in college, I realized it's like that one cartoon that was on when you were younger, where the dog and the other guy, they both, dog and the cat, and they both punched in their time card. And they were enemies, and the dog would chase the cat, trying to kill him for 8 hours, and then they would both see each other at the time clock at the end of the day, punch their time card, and say bye and bye. Like, I couldn't do that anymore. So then
That's a good
we
comparison.
figured in our second year, we figured if things are going to get better, we have to come up with a way to work the refs, because I wasn't sure how to do that, at least not at that level. So Coach Sherwood said he found out that, I guess, did you say Coach Izzo came up with that idea, or did you come up with that on your own? How did you
Go
get
about statting the officials.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think that was an Izzo thing.
Okay, so now what happens is, on foul shots where one of the referees has to come stand right in front of the coach. So I would be the good cop, say, "Nah, don't worry about it. The guy hit on the, And then Coach Sherwood would be with a clipboard behind me saying, "Coach Gaffey, do you realize that he's called the last 9 for SUNY Morrisville, and he's called for us? Like, I'm charting him right now." I'd look at him like, "Oh," and so then that was Coach.
Very impressive.
It's now 12-2 on the working calls. Like with with Cazenovia, I can't believe like the last 12 calls went to Cazenovia and only Penn State Harrisburg. But it's just with this one guy. It's with Joe Smith. And so and then we would look at each other, and
Nice.
yeah.
Showbiz.
So he was known for charting officials.
That's nice. Hey,
So he was the bad cop then.
hey, let's bring in Andy and let's go around and talk about where things are and as far as LL and districts and all that stuff. Andy, go ahead.
Well, yeah, first, before we jump into that, I wanted to go back over to Scott. I was going to ask him this earlier.
Oh, we're losing Andy.
Oh, losing it, Andy.
If he can take me back to last Saturday. You got me?
It was a little bit better. Go ahead.
Okay. I said I want to hand it over to Scott and just go back to last Saturday. Nothing?
No,
Hold on.
not good. Let's come back. Mike, let's start with you. You've been covering, you've been out, you've been about.
Yeah.
So what's going on in the LL as you see it, as opposed to big picture and going down towards the stretch here?
Well, Mike was talking earlier about how the classes have kind of shifted a little bit with this 6-class format, and we now have a situation where, like Mike had a great game against Lancaster Catholic in the district final last year. Well, those two teams are in different classes now. AAA there's a very good. It looks to me like there's a very good chance that like a Columbia Lancaster Catholic district final in AAA seems like a really good possibility if I look at that overall field, and they are the top 2 seeds. Now, Lancaster Catholic really went up in class yesterday and played Wilson, and supposedly that game was competitive until near the end. It ended up being 18 or something like that. But I mean, Lancaster Catholic is not going to dazzle you athletically, but I think they're very good, and they could play for a while. I was impressed with Lebanon the other night. I was impressed with their overall quickness. They caused a lot of problems for Warwick with that quickness. And they have some kids who can score. Their guards are kids who can score. They have a center. The kid who plays quarterback for them, Isaiah Rodriguez, is 6'5", 220, back to the basket. He's an actual center. So, but they're 6A. I mean, them against Reading, them against, those kind of, that's going to be tough. And of course, we all saw Reading yesterday, very long, athletic, very good defensively. They're formidable, so, I mean, that's just kind of some things I've seen.
All right. I think we got Andy back. Go ahead, Andy.
You got me? Is this better?
It's good. Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty good.
All right. I kind of jumped in there with what Mike was talking about. And the thing that I took away from specifically Friday and the Lebanon Warwick game is, for me, that really crystallized that I think we have 3 legitimate teams looking at walking away with this conference tournament title, being in no particular order,
Andy
We lost him again.
breaking up again, buddy.
Lebanon and Warwick, and probably
How
Breaking
about LS in that group?
up.
Well, it sounded
I'm
like
just-
he was saying Lebanon, Warwick, and Lancaster Catholic, I think is what.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So how about LS in that group also, maybe?
Yeah, well, LS, yes.
So Calico's had a really good year. I
I
don't know.
Field, I think as far as the LL goes, I think McCaskey's got a pretty good shot. I mean, I think they're getting better, and it's just so weird here, Coach Mike, in that the LL has gone. It's more different ways, but this year they're not counting the crossover games for the section titles, and we're only going section titles into the LL finals. And then I know Andy and I, and maybe Chris can speak to this, but we talk about when we get different coaches on from Reading or York, that the LL just has something about that playoff that's a little bit, it's got a little more oomph than most of the other leagues around here. I mean, what do you think there, Coach Mike? You were in the LL for a while. What's your thoughts on that?
Listen, we were in twice with McDevitt, and we even played in the championship game last year, and it doesn't have the feel that the Lancaster Lebanon League does. So
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. Because first we're already down to like 4 teams, so it happens so fast. You go Tuesday, semifinal, you got one day to get ready for the final Thursday, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
So it was exciting last year, but it doesn't have the feel. And I was just in the Lancaster Lebanon League playoffs once with Coach Sherwood at Anvil Cleona, and it doesn't have the same feel. Because then even as a non-participant, you follow the playoffs right to the championship. You go to the championship game if you can. So I don't know what it is, but the Lancaster Lebanon League has always run a first-class tournament where the excitement and the enthusiasm is definitely more exuberant in the mid-pen. And after being in the mid-pen, I wish I could explain it to you, but I can't.
What are your thoughts, Chris?
Well, when I first was at Central, we played my second year there. We ended up getting McCaskey the first round. I think it was 2008. We also had Greencastle lined up for first round of districts.
Ooh.
And although I was with Coach Gaff at Anvil, we didn't overly experience it. We knew it was a big deal, but I basically, in my mind, was saying, okay, I'm going to just start preparing for Greencastle. They were ranked in the top 10 in the state, and I actually thought that we could compete with them. But then I showed up to that McCaskey, and I was like, whoops, bad idea. So, but then my years of being fortunate enough to be in that tournament is absolutely awesome. It's better than any experience that you can have as a player, as a coach, as a talent. That the people love that tournament. It is just absolutely fantastic. I'm really disappointed. It's just champions this year, but we know. I mean, we have to take what we can get this year. But that tournament, I've been in gyms in that tournament as a coach and as a spectator where your ears hurt because it is so packed, so loud. It's just a great experience. And I think that's something this league is just, it's the calling card of this league. It's what makes this league so special. That tournament.
It's almost like the ACC was the original conference tournament. It's almost like that, because before the LL even existed, and I don't remember this. I'm not this old. I don't remember this, but it was the county championship was a big deal in Lancaster, right, Del?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
County championship.
Yep.
And this is almost, I think when they created this expanded league playoff format, they were thinking, let's get the feeling of that thing that we had way back, which was such a big deal. I don't know why completely, but I think that's part of the kind of the history of it.
I think, and I might be wrong, but if you go to Cedar Crest, I think they have Lebanon League champions up there, I think, on one of their flags. And I don't know about the Cedars, I'm sure they've won some, but I know it was Lebanon, and then it was Lancaster. And then way back in the days, Coach Gaffey, it was the Catholic League, not PLA. They had 2 separate tournaments going on. I mean, Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely there. Hey, Mike, I mean, you've covered a ton of these tournaments, a ton of them.
Oh, me, Mike.
Yeah. And it's like,
Sorry.
the mics are wild. So
That's all right.
I mean, just pick out a couple that stand out to you.
League playoff.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I remember so many times when McCaskey would win it and their kids would just go nuts. And I remember one time their coaches were telling me, I was talking to them and their kids were just going bananas. And I think it was Bird said, man, the kids just love to get trophies, man. That's trophy and jump around with a trophy. So I mean, they all have trophies. The Mid-Penn has trophies, of course. So that's not the difference, but that's one of the things that I've always kind of been struck with. They love having that moment where they cut down the nets and get a trophy and go nuts a little bit.
Yeah, get the medals. Okay, Coach Scott Gaffey, what are your thoughts? LL, I mean, you haven't been in the playoffs yet, but you've kind of watched, and I think this year is going to be different because you're not going to get a real good feel for it. But LL Hoop's going to be live streaming it, so you can watch us on TV anyway.
Well, yeah, but what does Scott think about some of these teams?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Some of these teams that, yeah.
Well, one of the things that I noticed right away that I thought was really special about the LL that I think, some of the Mid-Penn schools have and others don't was that it really looked like when I was watching film from last year, all these schools, whether they're the teams that are winning every single year, like Cedar Crest, or teams that are struggling, that have struggled in the past, have these big student sections that all the students seem to come out. And that's one of the things I noticed right away. Like I was watching the 19th game of the season for Ephrata, and they were 0-19 at that point. And the student section was still amazing. And then the Ephrata Cocalico game, the feel on that really looked amazing. So I think that's one of the things that I think gives the the Lancaster Lebanon League a lot of credit, and for their tournament as well. I think that's one of the things that builds the excitement is that these schools have these student sections that have big followings, and it's every school. I remember too, Mifflin County, we were scouting Donegal last year against West York, and they were struggling too. And we went down there, and they still had an impressive student section for a team, that was struggling. So that really struck out to me was that the support of the students, I think in the LL is really good.
I think that's going to help you next year. Hopefully, when we can get people back in the stands, I think you'll find that it is kind of cool. It's different. I mean, right now we get in there and maybe we'll go back to Coach Mike, but Coach Mike in a game now, we have some where there's some people in. We were at McCaskey yesterday. They're not letting any fans in, but they let the media in, but the cheerleaders are there. So I guess as a coaching thing, and I'll go back to Scott too, it's like everybody's live streaming. Are you guys aware of that microphone picking you guys up during timeouts and things like that?
Sometimes when you get into it, you're not. and I mean, you just have to be who you are. But you're not aware of that. And the other thing too is when you're scouting, you can hear the names of the other team's plays now.
Yeah.
So the coach down there last night, he said, "Your yellow is the same as our yellow." And okay, people can hear everything so it's like Scott said, I think you miss the student interaction and the fans at the game when you have the big games. So you definitely that once the game gets going, it's sort of like a summer league game, and you try to win your summer league games just to your regular season games. We walked into East Pennsboro last Saturday, and it was just 30 people, 15 sets of East Pennsboro parents, and that was it. And my one assistant looked at me and he's like, "This is amazing." He said, "The last time we were at this gym, we were playing Trinity, and there was a 45-minute wait to get in the game." And we had never experienced anything like that before. I'd experienced it going to Coach Sherwood's game against Cedar Crest. Here I was trying to scout his team for the districts. I had to stand out there and wait in line for 45 minutes and parked by the Methodist Church in Anvil, Cleona, just to get into the game. So That part, I think I feel bad for the kids because, like Scott was saying, you like playing in front of your fellow students, and so that atmosphere is missed. The only thing is in high school, really, when you think about it, depending on where you're at, there's only really a couple games a year where you have the packed house, which is sort of neat because when you walk in the gym, whether you're a fan or a coach or a player, you can feel it.
No doubt.
Yeah. So, and Coach Sherwood saying that stuff about taking your jacket off and stuff like that. Last year, I just asked the girl at Susquehanna that was running the door. I said, "Does it normally get this hot in here during the JV game?" She said, "Yes, with a lot of people in it." So then I just figured the first time the official makes a call that even looks like it's questionable, I'm just to take my coat off. And I was mad, really. I just didn't want to wear it. It was too hot.
All
But
right.
you know, when I was talking to you, Mike, after your game the other day, and I said, you're the first basketball coach at any level this year that I've seen wearing a coat and a tie. And now I realize it's so you can throw it.
That's
Very crafty on your part.
Scott's wearing one at Ephrata. And
Oh, okay.
yeah, so I was proud of him for doing that because that way you don't have to go with the norm. And right now the norm on TV is to wear a 3-zip Sherwood style
Yeah, I'll stay.
thingamabobber.
Yeah, he's really the pioneer of that, I think.
I don't know what started the jacket thing, but last year at Steel High, there was a boy that used to cause problems in my 5th grade class all the time. Now I love him, but sometimes he would make my day during the day miserable. He went over the back of Jake Kelly last year and they called Jake Kelly for a foul. And I think it was the combination of the call and knowing that he made my life miserable as an educator for probably not 180 days, maybe 172 or something. But I took my coat and I just sort of took it off a little bit. And I didn't throw it, but I just shook it. And I walked away. And next thing you know, I heard this loud roar and I turned around and Joe gave me a technical. So I went back to Joe and I was like, Joe, I was upset with the call and I took my coat off, but I walked down the end of the bench like I never said a word to you. Why'd you give me the technical? He's like, Coach, there's 6 sticks of gum out in the court. That's a rule. You can't throw things out onto the court. And I was like, 6 sticks of gum. What I did was in my suit coat, you have that little thing on the inside. I figured I'll just put a couple of sticks of gum in there. I forgot they were in there. So again, it was like 3 minutes left, 5-point game. And so then they want us to pick up the gum. So my assistants were yelling back at Joe, no, you pick up. I was like, guys, I'll go pick up the gum.
That's great. Let's do this. We've hit the hour mark and I knew to go past it. I knew it.
We knew we could do this all day.
No, I know. It's fun. So what I want to do is just maybe go down, and if we have a little story to tell, we'll wrap up with one story, and then we'll go down and we'll do our Super Bowl picks because everybody got to do that. So I will start with a Coach Mike Gaffey story. So I'm coaching at Donegal, and he's at Anvil, and we're doing some sort of play or something. And he's sitting there, he's got his hands crossed, and he's like, Woodman's going here, this guy's going there, then they're going to do this, then they're going to do that. And I'm like, dang, dude. It's like, I got to change my calls. Coach Gaffey's like, it's like, what the heck? It's like, this is unbelievable. I'm there like, this guy's got 5 wins sitting here at Anvil Cleona, and he's got me so well scouted. I don't even have to call. I almost look down to him and say, Coach, why don't you call the next play for me? And I'll see if I know where my guys are supposed to go. And then
That's good. Yeah.
Hey, Coach Gaff, I got one more. You were saying that I was a little nutty when I was a little younger. So when we had the bench rule,
Nutty though.
well, when we had the bench rule way back when, I'm a little guy, and I was like, well, what the heck? What am I going to do? So what I would do is I would squat next to the bench. I would try to have my butt up to the bench so I wouldn't get teed up. So we're playing York High. I don't know why I would schedule York High. I don't understand why I did that, but there's some sort of fast break going, and all of a sudden I hear a whistle. I said, all right, we're going to foul line. Guy turned around and said, boom. What's that about? And he's like, you're off the bench. And I'm looking at my butt. I said, yeah, I probably am about 2 inches. And then I turned around to the guy and said, now this is why you guys don't get district games. Boom.
Very subtle. Very subtle. Nice
Yeah,
job.
it was.
Way to be
It's always
diplomatic.
very subtle.
No, I was like, God, I hope if we get in districts, we don't have that guy because he was one of the top dudes. I'm like, oh, that wasn't real smart. So let's go to Mike Gross. All right, Mike, story time.
Well, I don't really have a good story, but I was thinking about that year that you guys were the 16 seed and you almost beat Reading. Because that was the year, as I remember it, maybe I'm remembering it wrong. That was the year after Billy Owens, I think. That was the year after Billy Owens' senior year. So you guys remember Fred Sprunk, who covered high school?
Oh, yeah, Fred. Yep.
Well, to Fred, every year was a down year. I can't believe how bad these teams are that are playing at Hershey. And we used to go at it, and I got tired of hearing it. And I said, and he was really, it was that year, and he was really carrying on about how bad it was. We were at a press row at Hershey, you know, and I said, you know what, there's probably not a state champion in this group, but this group top to bottom is better than it was last year. And if you take away one player, it's not even close. And he was, get out of here. Yeah, you know, so we're going at it. And I said to, just pulling this out of my butt, kind of, I said, I'll tell you something else. Penn Manor might be the best 16 seed in the history of this tournament. And then a couple days, of course, you almost beat them and arguably should have beat them. And then a couple days later, Fred Sprunk said, hey, I'll give it to you. All right, I'll give it to you. Penn Manor, pretty good 16 seed. I don't know if that makes you happy. That's great. So that's what I thought of when I was thinking about that game.
Oh, that's good. Let me follow up on that real quick. Okay. So we were 16th. I think we scrimmaged Warwick or something like that. And Coach Oldhouse was like, what did he say to me? He says, oh, they're fast, and I don't know if you can handle. I said, I'm not worried about their speed. I said, you know, we're fast. So I had a really good point guard. I had two kids that could handle. I got some kids that could score. I said, we're not gonna play the game in the 40s. We're gonna surprise them. We're just gonna go after it. So anyway, we were up. It was either 14 or 17 at halftime. Okay, and Coach Gaffey Mike can appreciate this. We're playing a Governor Mifflin coach. Reading's the #1 seed. Okay, now when you play Reading, you're going to see these big fat guys in Reading t-shirts sitting on the bottom row, and they got it packed. And my guy hit a half court, 3-court, you know, like one of those 3-pointers was in there, and he went in. And I usually sit on the bench and I wait. The refs hate this. This might be something you can try sometime. Just sit there. Just sit on the bench. Because they're like waiting for you to leave before they come over to the score table, and you just sit there and look at them. It's like, I don't need to leave. You know, there's no rule that I need to leave. I just sit there and watch them walk in. So anyway, the refs at this game at Governor Mifflin ran off the floor at halftime. Ran off the floor. These guys from Reading came out of the stands, and Mifflin had a little bit. They were on the floor chasing the refs into the locker room at halftime. Okay, I turned around to my assistant and I said, do you think we're going to get any calls in the third quarter? The answer was zero.
No, we were not.
0 calls. Reading goes to a 1-3-1 trap. They haven't played Danielle Marshall all year. He's in the back of the 1-3-1. Danielle Marshall has 10 blocks in the second half. 10. So I figure we helped make Danielle Marshall a great player.
Oh yeah,
You did. You got him to
Take some
UConn.
credit there.
All right, Coach Scott, you got to have some stories about that or Grandpa or something.
Well, my favorite story with this is just he gets now you were talking about the scouting back then, and he certainly, you know, does prepare now, and I help him with states, but the joke is that during the regular season, like I remember my first year when I came back from Bonaventure and I was helping him at McDevitt, and this is my first time, you know, seeing him as a coach now, because I always played for him growing up, and he was coaching me, and then he was an assistant with myself, helping out at Harrisburg Christian. I come back, and he literally at times, coach, has the other team's plays like you come home and they're written on a white napkin. Like he just takes whatever he can write things on and takes these notes. And that's literally what, you look at it and I'm like, can you read what this says? Like, do you know where the player is going to go? But he does. But then for the state playoffs, he usually graduates up. There might be like a manila envelope, a big one, a big manila envelope.
Big time.
Like for Bonner Prendergast last year. Now, unfortunately, the game got canceled, but they got 2 sides of a big manila envelope. So I take good pride in my scouting reports. We use the format that I learned from Coach Sherwood. And when Coach Fish sent me one of his reports this year, I'm like, geez, this looks exactly the format we use our reports. I'm like, oh, that's because he learned from Sherwood too. So that's why our reports look the same, but they're different from his reports because most of his regular season ones are now on a napkin or a tissue or maybe a piece of notebook paper that he found by the computer. But those are the reports.
Don't tell Dell that. He actually thought I was coaching.
Can I piggyback that?
Please, it's your turn.
I think Scott nailed it. Scott, that is 100% accurate, but it's almost like we can't do it justice. It's been like this forever. It's been like there's like 4 scrap pieces of paper around, and you got to put these puzzle pieces to put that scouting report together. Because listen, he knows more than all of us. We all know that. I mean, as guys who were working under him, et cetera. And you'd be like, I can't read this. Sure, he could. He can tell. He can see things once. He knows where guys are going. Like, it really is something else. And the fact that all these guys, like, Scott talked about myself having that format. Well, I learned from Coach Gaffey that you better be prepared. Like, you better know where the other team's where everybody's going. And I actually think, if I can say, I think Scott has the same, we'll use the word gift or talent that his dad has. I watched Calico for years and couldn't understand whether a guy was popping to the corner or going to the top on their one out of bounds call, that they were calling the same play each time. I sent the video to Scott up in the St. Bonaventure, and he writes back to me and he says, hey, coach, it depends on where the guy's hand is when he's making the call, whether it's hands high or whether it's hands outside. And he was right. Scott nailed it. I've been watching this. We know something. We just don't know which direction it's going. Scott nailed which direction it was going. So don't let these Gaffeys fool you. They're all going to come about 2,000 wins in their careers, all these Gaffeys together. And they just do an incredible job, and they do an incredible job with the scouting. Last thing, real quick. He talked about going to the LVC game when we played at LVC in a league tournament when we played Crest there. He talked about parking and me knowing right away when I saw him through his beat, our weaknesses were glaring, and he's basically back there, kissing my parents, rubbing my brother's back. And he has every single thing we're going to do, and he saw every single weakness of ours tonight. So, he knows what he's doing, and his son does too. And, together they're pretty dangerous.
They're dangerous.
Go ahead, Mike. Mike Gross. You got something?
Oh, no. Just agreeing that the Gaffeys are dangerous. That's it.
Well, yeah. As we're sitting here talking and as some guys get older, Coach Mike, it always amazes me of how intertwined basketball circles become. So, I'm looking at 5 guys that, I might not have known when I was growing up, but look how close, and look at the stories and the weaving and really people don't understand the connection of coaches with players. I mean, all they see is you're hollering a player or you're taking a player out. Why not? And I saw it in the stands the other night. I mean, a parent was yipping at an assistant coach, and he called him over, and I'm going to let you know and that know. And then that's the ugly part of this job. But the good part, it's hard to put into words. You know what I mean, Coach Mike? It amazes me. I talked to Coach Goodling. He does the shows with us now. And, when I was coaching against him, I didn't have 2 good words to say about the dude because he was major competitive. He knew what was going on. So I just want to thank this. And I know the Gaffey family tree is amazing. Hey, Chris, speaking of which, I got a story you probably never heard before.
Yeah, I can't wait.
All right, here we go, man. So Del Jackson is 30 years old. he gets his first head coach job. I was working at Palmyra. You guys know that. I was Berman's assistant. That's how I got my start. And then I went to
God love
Virginia
him.
for 4 years, and I was a junior high coach. And then I came back to LL. There was a job, Penn Manor job was open, and it was not a good job. We were really bad. It took a while. So Coach Scott, it's there, baby. You got to work it. It's going to happen. So anyway, after my first year, I get a call from Bill Gaffey. Okay. Now I knew Bill because when we were at Palmyra, we would play in a summer league, and we would have Susquehanna and Lower Dolphin, and anyway, Bill knew me. He calls me up and he says, Coach Jackson. I said, yeah. It's like, oh, I got a call from Bill Gaffey, man. It's pretty cool. He's talking. He says, my son needs a job. I said, he does. He says, yeah, he needs a job. I said, well, dude, it's like, I'm at Penn Manor. They don't hire just, they don't put guys in there to coach. So it's like, anyway, I wish I had a job for him, but how crazy is that?
Could have been your assistant.
Wouldn't that have been
Could have
great?
been your assistant.
I know. Dad's like, I think you're a good guy and he would do well for you. I was like, man, he did fine without Dell.
Hey, listen, before you wrap up, I've been reading Mike Gross's columns ever since we moved to Palmyra. And he used to write the notebook on the Sunday paper in the Lebanon paper. So basketball is for me to get a chance to meet and talk with him. And he knows and understands the game. So it's always good to see him after the game.
Well, thank you, Michael. I appreciate
Being
that.
in the mid-pen, there's nothing to follow in the mid-pen. So I just get hoops like everybody else. I follow your I follow the standings. We don't have anything like that in the mid-pen. So it's awesome that you're doing what you're doing, and it
Appreciate that.
gives you the opportunity to continue to stay in touch with the coaching circle, because I know the 1 year I was at Alvernia, I missed that. So just thank you for your coverage. And Mike, yours continues to be great. I used to, like I said, to read the notebook with all this Lebanon Cedars stories back in the early 90s. So
yeah, for a while there,
guys,
Lebanon High almost was like a separate beat.
Yes.
For a while there.
oh yeah, they were it.
Yep.
So
Yeah, and I was always fighting with Barnhart. Oh my God. That's not even.
Maybe we get,
Oh my
maybe we
God.
get Coach Barnhart on here and we just
Oh
have to do this.
my God. That's a whole other, yeah.
You guys have plenty of things to cover, but during the pandemic.
Well,
when you-
thanks. I appreciate that. All right, Lancaster Newspapers is really trying. And the last year or so has been tough, and we've had to cut staff and everything, but we're really trying. And there aren't many people who try to get those box scores every night and do the standings. There aren't people doing that anymore, and we're still trying to do it. So I appreciate the fact that you guys appreciate it.
We definitely do. And I know even my son told me, he said, when you're trying to scout other teams, the only place you can get information is the Lancaster.
Yeah, it's tough.
And the parents of players want to see that stuff too. So the
I
fact
hope so.
continue to provide that.
Well, great. Appreciate
Okay,
it.
let's wrap up with Super Bowl picks. Coach Mike Gaffey, you're on.
Mike.
The line, not that I would know, but the line is 3.
It's free.
As
Well,
of
once
Like
I
you
saw
do.
the line, my daughter sings the national anthem. So I'm going to go off the board. I'm going to take the national anthem under 2 minutes. And I'm also going to take tails because that's 29 to 20, 33, 29. It's a 5-point lead all time for tails.
Okay, so under
Oh.
under 2 and tails. Okay, we'll
Yes.
check the FanDuel a little later on. All right, Mike, what do you got?
Oh, me. Okay. I like Tampa a little to win the game. I think that I'm a big offensive line guy. Kansas City's offensive line is really beat up. I mean, they're starting a couple of guys who are like NFL journeymen. Stefan Wisniewski, the ex-Penn State guy, is one of them. Guys that have been cut a couple times. We're going to be starting in the Super Bowl, the offensive line. That concerns me a little bit. So I like Tampa a little. And I also, if we're going to do like prop bet kind of things,
Why not?
I'll take well, Mike said the coin flip and the national anthem, and everything. I will take the under.
Under?
I have a feeling about the under in this game.
I think it's 55, isn't it?
Oh, it's more than that. If it's 55, I'm changing my pick.
We'll have to check.
I thought it was like 58 and a half. Anyway, I'll stay with it. I'll stay with it. Why not?
Going under 57
Tampa.
and 58. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Scott Gaffey, you're on, buddy.
Give me the Chiefs. I'm taking the Chiefs.
Chiefs to
I'm
cover.
taking- Yep, taking them to cover. And if it's 55, I'm taking the over.
Okay, you're going over too. Okay. Mike's going under, and you're
If
going.
it's 55,
Somebody's
if it's
gonna
55,
win.
I'm taking the over.
Yeah, somebody has to win.
All right, that's good. Yeah, hedge your bets. You know what I'm saying? It's like I
I do.
lost, but yet I won. Coach
Yeah.
Chris.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Tampa Bay. I think the same. I'm gonna go with the same way that Mike Gross is going there. I think that Todd Bowles is the X factor here, the defense coordinator for Tampa.
Yeah.
Beat up offensive line. I think Tampa wins because they're good defensively. That's why I think Tampa wins. And my prop bet here is I'm going to go with Mahomes to throw the ball more than 40 and a half times. And the reason why is that offensive line is beat up. They're not going to be able to run the ball. So I'm going to go with
I didn't know that existed. That's a really good one.
I'm going to go with
Thanks for the
Mahomes
tip.
throwing the ball over 40 and a half times.
Yeah, that.
I saw that number on ESPN this morning. I did not see a
Who told you that? Stephen A. Smith.
Well, then you can take it to the bank if he told you.
So
Oh God.
yeah, I like Tampa.
All right, wonderful. Hey, thank you so much. I don't know what type of fan people we're gonna get today, but I know I had a great hour and a half.
Yeah, we amused the hell out of ourselves.
Yeah, I had a great time.
What better thing to do this than watching the pregame shows? You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? All good. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Coach Mike.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you, Mike
Enjoyed it.
LNP. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Chris, for popping in and surprising everybody. I
I
thought
loved it. I loved
That's
it.
funny.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Hope to see you guys very, very soon. Thank you.
Enjoyed it.
See you on the bout.